Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode of the Caffeinated Librarians, MPL's pop culture podcast. So we are doing a series that I have long waited for. And if you are someone who has listened to us or watched our videos, you know that I'm a Buffy fan.
She's a fanatic, not a fan. There's a difference.
I'm a fan, and my colleagues know it. So we are going to be doing a Buffy series where we will be discussing 3 episodes from all 7 seasons of Buffy. And we're kicking things off with episodes Angel, Nightmares, and Prophecy Girl from season 1. So just a little background on the show. So Buffy the Vampire Slayer premiered on March 10th, 1997. And
Good year.
I guess.
I was 7.
Me too.
Go ahead.
Actually, I wasn't 7 at the time of the premiere.
And concluded on May 20th, 2003. So Buffy ran for a total of 7 seasons. And Buffy did launch the careers of its main stars. So just to give you an overview on the character of Buffy, since we did watch part 1 of the opener, Welcome to the Hellmouth, but that was last year.
Yeah.
So Buffy Summers, who is the titular character, is 16 years old when she moves to Sunnydale, California. And at this point, she has been a Slayer for over a year. And you learn that the reason why she had to move to Sunnydale, California was because she was expelled from her previous high school for burning down the gym. Now, this is mentioned in part 1 of the first episode, but it's also a callback to the early 90s film Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So at the end of that film, Buffy has to fight vampires, and the only way to get rid of all of them is she burns down the gym. So it's something you see at the end of the 1992 film, and it's something that's mentioned in episode 1 of Welcome to the Hellmouth. So due to her Slayer activities, this also caused some issues in her home. Now, granted, her parents were already having difficult times in their marriage, but Buffy feels that her behavior sort of escalated matters, although that's proven to not be the case, but that is how she feels. And that feeling is relevant for one of the episodes that we'll be discussing, Nightmares.
Yeah.
So also in Welcome to the Hellmouth, we're introduced to the characters who will become affectionately known as the Scooby Gang. So there's Rupert Giles, who's the school librarian, also Buffy's watcher. There's Willow Rosenberg, who is the quintessential nerdy character, loves school. She's very big into technology, and she's the one that often enough will assist the gang with sort of like hacking into, like at one point she hacks into the morgue and the police station, whatever. So she's really good. Xander Harris is the quintessential loser character. I'm sorry, that's who he is. He is very much, and this was stated by Josh Whedon, that he's the insert character. So he is meant to represent Josh Whedon, which makes a lot of sense when you consider how his character behaves specifically towards certain female characters in the show. And generally speaking, I don't know how well liked Xander's character is. I will say there are moments in the show where he shows thoughtfulness and care. Unfortunately, his character is very much written to be the guy who's sort of lusting after the girl that he can't have, and he's very bitter about it.
He's just straight up annoying too.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, he has moments of thoughtfulness, of kindness, where he shows that he can be more, but he wasn't really written to be more than that. And that's no shade on the actor who was going through a difficult time during the filming of the show. It's just about his character. So the first episode that we're going to be talking about is the episode Angel, which is episode 7 of season 1. And I meant to say also, the main villain of season 1 is the Master, and he doesn't appear too often in season 1, but he's the main villain. He's a century-old vampire who in the 1920s or 30s was locked, like a church crumbled, and he was locked into the church, so he's trying to get out of the church, but there's a spell that's keeping him within the church. And Joe, who couldn't be with us, wanted me to also talk about the Anointed One, which is the young child Colin that you see in the show, because Joe didn't really know what he's supposed to be. So Colin is first introduced in an episode that we didn't watch, Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. And he is, when he dies, he becomes the Anointed One. Equivalent could be Damien from The Omen. So he's like an antichrist figure, and he's the one that will fulfill the prophecy of leading the Slayer to her doom. So that's who he is.
That's it. That's all he does.
Exactly, yeah. That's essentially what his character is.
What a lame character.
Cordelia Chase is the quintessential mean girl, although her character over the courses of season 2 and 3 does change. She shows more sort of nuance, more development in the latter.
Over the course of what? What'd you say?
Seasons 2 and 3.
I'd say she changed over the course of season 1.
She
argue.
does. There
The
are
end of the episode, the end of the season.
Well, yeah, there are moments,
she
but
saves them.
I think her character sort of becomes more liked when she sort of integrates into the Scooby Gang. So yeah, in season 1, there are moments when you learn that her mean girl persona is just that she fears basically being isolated and alone. And there's a moment where she tells Buffy that no one knows who I truly am, but it's better being lonely in a group of people than lonely by myself. So yes, I would agree in season 1, you see glimpses of her true personality, but I would argue it's season 2 and 3 when she really becomes integrated that you see more of her ability to be nuanced, to care, and to sort of, yeah, just be more than the rich girl who wears nice clothes. Another character, and then we'll get into, so then there's Angel, who's the love interest. He doesn't really need much of an introduction, except that he's a 200-plus-year-old
260-year-old vampire.
Vampire who's crushing on a teenager, but we'll talk about that later.
Creepy.
Jenny Calendar.
I love Miss Calendar.
She is the computer science teacher. She's also a self-identified techno-pagan. She's introduced in the horrible episode I, Robot You, Jane, which is essentially a PSA on the dangers of being on the internet and chatting with people that you don't know who you're chatting with.
Yo, the episode 17, season 2, Passion, when she... we're not going to see it. They're not going to see that episode. She's not going to see Miss Calendar dies. I won't tell you how. But, dude, that episode broke me. I was like, yo, they killed Miss Calendar. She also becomes Giles' love interest.
That was going to be my next question.
They're not going to watch that episode.
No, I'm not going to watch it. It's okay.
Okay, fine, whatever. So...
They're gonna, that stuff's gonna come up when we talk about the finale of season 2.
Yeah, but if she decides, season 2 is one of the... Okay. So, all right, fine. So let's talk about season 7, episode 7, Angel.
I love season 2 of this show, so...
So, episode 7, Angel, is Angel's introductory story. Up until this point, he's sort of been the really handsome... mysterious figure who pops in and out saying, Buffy, you have to do this, and then vanishes into the night.
Oh, he was that kind of character.
He is, yeah. So you first meet him.
Would you say he was quintessential?
Okay, so, whatever. So anyway, so Angel, you first see him in Welcome to the Hellmouth, and he appears when Buffy is investigating this mausoleum. Prior to that. So he essentially stalks her for a little bit.
To the bronze, right?
Yeah, she rightfully says, why are you following me? And he goes, I'm not. I'm a friend. And that's where you first meet him, but you don't know much about him.
No, he just shows up at weird times.
Yeah.
And he says very little, and everything he says is very ominous.
Yeah.
But he's a good-looking guy. So Buffy's like, you know what? It's okay if he's creepy. It's okay if he's old. Like, honestly, even if he wasn't a 260-year-old vampire, the dude is definitely still too old for her. But, she's cool.
Bella felt the same way about Edward.
Well, yeah. But Edward, at least, was in high school with them. Wasn't he in high school with them?
Yeah. But that still doesn't change the fact that he's over 100 years old.
Right. But I'm just
Bella's
saying, let's say Angel wasn't a vampire. David Boreanaz does not look like an 18-year-old. Like they didn't place him in the high school with her.
No.
You know what I mean?
Well,
yes.
And this I found out. So
also, what is going on in this town? Like, do people not realize what's happening in this town?
Well,
apparently not.
Well, that's something that's addressed in later episodes.
I know, but I'm just being funny.
Well, that is one of the running gags of the show. Like, even the fact, so for seasons 1, 2, and 3, which take place in the high school, the library becomes the sort of meetup for all the characters. It makes sense for the
It's a
most of the
central
day.
part.
They're in the school, they're on school grounds, so the library becomes the place where they meet up. And the running gag was that no one ever comes in.
There is an episode where somebody comes in to use the library.
Yeah, and they're basically chased out of the library,
yeah.
and Buffy reminds Giles, it's a library. So that was a running joke. Even with the show, it's touched upon that the residents are aware of the darkness, but it's almost like out of sight, out of mind. You just ignore it and it'll go away.
Like, housing prices must be very low.
Yes.
Well, yeah, Xander even says that. Yeah. It's no wonder you can still afford a house in Sunnydale because of the high death rate of the show. So Angel is, so in this episode, Buffy finally learns that he is a vampire, and it happens during a moment of intimacy where they're kissing, and he vamps out, and she screams, and she realizes, oh my God. So
I love how he belly slides down. It's not very graceful, his escape. He belly slides down the roof.
You know, it is what it is. And this is where the conflict enters into Buffy's mind, where she's like, she's the Slayer.
She's gotta kill him.
She has to kill him, but she loves him. And there's this conflict where she says, you know, if he were evil, there were many times where he could have killed me.
And Simona, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Why did Angel not kill her?
Do you genuinely want to know, or are you like...
I think that's probably the biggest thing of the episode is learning all of that. I would say.
So
wouldn't you say that's like the most important aspect of this episode?
Yes.
All right.
So Angel reveal. So essentially Buffy learns, okay, I'm in love with a vampire. As the Slayer, I have my duty is clear. I need to slay him. She goes to Giles.
Such is life.
For advice, and Giles says, you know, a vampire, once they become a vampire, they're pure animal instinct. There is no goodness in them. They're driven
a
to
demon,
kill.
essentially a demon.
Yeah. Xander, being the jealous that he is.
I couldn't stand
Yeah, he was
Xander.
so annoying.
Yeah,
I
basically
can't.
says,
The
you
whole
know,
season.
fish gotta swim, birds gotta fly. You know what you have to do. Willow, being the good friend that she is, realizes it's more complicated than this.
Willow stepped up to the plate. Willow was a good
Because
friend.
also, like,
in
Angel
this.
hasn't done anything. Like, Buffy even says, like, he could have killed her at any minute, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Because.
And I'm getting into it. So the character of Darla is in this episode. So Darla, you see her also. It matters. This matters, Lou. So Darla is a vampire who's also introduced in the opening. Welcome
Why
to the
does she
Hellmouth.
dress like that?
Because she's a
guess she finds it
vampire and she
attractive.
wants to.
So you learn that Darla was Angel's sire. So in the Buffyverse, you sire. That's the word that's used. So she is his sire. They also were lovers, and they wreaked havoc for several hundred years. Angel then, what happened was he became the victim of a curse. He killed the favored daughter of the tribe. They cursed him to receive his soul. And essentially, when a person becomes a vampire, the demonic essence doesn't get their soul. So essentially, Angel is a vampire living with a soul, and the soul forces him to remember every person he's killed, and he's a vampire with a conscience.
That's
So,
like his conscience.
At one point, you learn he fled Europe, came to America, and shunned his kind, and he wasn't killing people, which is why he does not kill Buffy. In addition, he's in love with her, so to answer Lou's question, he is ensouled, and he loves Buffy, so that is why he does not kill her. Darla, in jealousy and rage, attacks Buffy's mom and sort of orchestrates this plot to get Angel to drink blood for the first time and to get Buffy to sort of go after him and kill him. Needless to say, it fails. It doesn't work. Buffy does go to kill him, but again, considering that she likes/loves him, she hesitates. Angel tells his story. He also reveals that he's not surprised she would attack him because he is a monster. You learn that he killed his own family once he was turned. Darla shows up, and you mentioned that you love, or was it Joe? No, sorry. Joe, who could not be with us, mentioned that he loves the scene where Darla comes with 2 guns.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, a vampire pulling out 2 gats to try and kill somebody, like, That's fun. That was awesome. The only thing I didn't like was what kinds of guns are those? They just have unlimited ammo.
Well,
Yeah.
on the show, guns are used willy-nilly but anyway, that's a whole other story.
I do have to comment on the crossbow. Crossbows were not that easy to use. Yes, I understand that it's cool, but the reload time is twice as long as it took Buffy to reload, and it's doesn't do as much damage as a regular bow and arrow would have done. So
But I thought a crossbow was supposed to be like the thing that revolution, like the speed, the
Yeah,
force,
didn't it
and
make
the
it easier?
accuracy. Didn't it make it easier?
No. Because the tension in a crossbow is a lot tougher than the tension in a regular bow. And to reload the crossbow, you had to put it on the ground, you had to stand on it, you had to pull it up, and then you reloaded the arrow.
Well, as we see in the last episode, she does have a tougher time reloading against the Master than she did in that one.
Yeah, it's also.
Well,
it's
that
a
wasn't
tiny-
because
you know,
of the
tiny
crossbow?
Yeah, it's just a little
It's
one.
like a mini crossbow.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna trust Katie because she's our resident historian, and I figure that would be the part that would irk her the most. But
No, Xander irked me the most in all
but it
of
is
these.
true. So generally speaking, when weaponry is involved in this show, they just do what they want.
So, Darla is killed.
Yes, she is.
By
By whom?
I don't remember, Angel? Maybe?
Angel,
Probably.
yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Angel stabs her
With the arrow.
in
Yes.
the back.
Yes.
And then Buffy and Angel share a kiss in the most disgusting club in the world called the Bronze. And
For
Why
a
is it
pre,
disgusting?
why is it disgusting? Okay, so the
pre-fumigating
very next episode
movie.
that we watched, they had cockroaches all over the place.
It was a fumigating party, and at the start of the episode, and then at the end, it's a pre-fumigating party.
Well,
it's like, how is that sanitary?
So,
Yeah.
but okay, so they had an issue with an infestation and they dealt with it.
I gotta tell you, Simone, it sure sounds like this is a yearly thing.
Yeah.
It's never brought up again. But okay, fine. I get the point, but the whole point was that the Bronze was addressing the infestation issue. That's why they had the fumigation of the Bronze.
Probably shouldn't have people there though.
Yeah.
If you have enough of an infestation where you need fumigation.
Or enough of an infestation where people are picking up cockroaches and putting them into a container at the bar,
Disgusting.
that
Yes.
I would leave
It's
Yeah.
a metaphor.
and never return.
It's
metaphor for
a
what?
metaphor for how life can appear perfect and rosy, but there's that underside to it.
There is nothing
that
rosy about the Bronze.
infestation.
No.
It's not that bad. They're
It's disgusting.
exaggerating. The Bronze. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, they had their
disgusting.
kiss.
They had their kiss, and I love how they're like, we can't see each other anymore. And then they're like, all right, but let's make out first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I'm going to ask you, and you got to tell me in a way that's appropriate for viewing. If you thought that would be the last time you would see a woman that you were developing feelings for, would you simply say, we can't see each other, peace out, I wish you well, and book it? Or you would not kiss her first?
Oh, no, I'd kiss her hard.
Okay,
Yeah.
so don't... So,
Not Sarah Michelle Gellar, though. I got really no feelings towards Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So, episode 7 concludes with the Romeo and Juliet characters realizing this is no good.
Well,
Of
okay,
course
well,
it does not
hold on.
last.
This
Romeo and
isn't Romeo and
Juliet.
Juliet. They both don't die at the end of the episode. That's a Romeo and Juliet.
I didn't say at the end of the episode. What I meant is that there are two lovers that are not meant to be together because of circumstance.
Well, then
and because of the nature of their being. I didn't indicate that they die at the end of the episode.
But that's what saying Romeo and Juliet would have
didn't-
insinuated.
All right, fine. So I'll rephrase because I'm being attacked by my colleagues. So they're not Romeo and Juliet, but they are two people that are not right for one another for obvious reasons. First of all, he's a
Vampire.
centuries-old vampire. She's a 16-year-old. So on the age gap
Slayer.
alone,
Slayer.
and also she's a slayer.
Now, so one of the things was like when we were discussing off air was when Angel was turned. Now, like if you had told me he was turned when he was 18, I'd be like, all right,
That's
you know
what I thought. I made a
That's
mistake.
fine. But like the fact that we found out he was turned when he was 26, I'm like, so even if he still had the mentality of like I'm 26,
Yeah.
you're still hooking up with a 16-year-old.
Blech.
That's cringy.
Yeah.
That's cringy. But honestly, I don't know. You get past it pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, like
Because I'm rooting for those two kids.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
at the time, I'm like most people were highly invested in Buffy and Angel. That was a very popular romantic ship at the time. So a lot of forums and message boards, they were very popular. I am sure
In
there
the
were
early
people,
days of forums and message boards,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
like
before-
dial-up
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I really believe obviously there would have been people that would have been like, ew. But I think the fact that what made it
Nah, not back
glad-
then. Not back then.
Maybe.
There wasn't anybody that said ill back then.
I'm sure that, well, okay, I will.
No, I don't remember ever hearing anybody be like it's through a 2025 lens that you're kind of like, oh, that's a little cringy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
you guys,
nobody.
You guys
yeah.
could speak more to that than I can
Yeah.
because I didn't grow up watching Buffy.
Yeah, like, well, for
Like
me.
my sister, who was like, what year did you say Buffy came
97.
out?
97.
My sister was 11 at the time. She wrote like a letter to David Boreanaz because he wrote her back. He sent her a signed picture.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cute.
And I wrote one to Allison Hannigan. She did not send one back to me.
I didn't know that your sister liked Buffy.
She loves Buffy. Man.
Oh, that is so cool. Well, when it aired, like, I didn't become a avid watcher of it until I was in college. So for one of my English classes, we were discussing the hero and how the hero, enters into battle. And my teacher made us watch the final episode of season 7. So she was talking about how Buffy presents herself for the battle. She's dressed to the nines. And how she it's one of the more beautiful episodes of the show. And that is what made me decide I'm going to rewatch this show. And that's when I really became a fan. Because also at the time, I was very young when it aired. So at a certain point, I stopped watching, so I'd catch reruns. But I was not a fan at that time. I was too young. I didn't become a fan until I was much older and when I was in college. But yeah, so they end on a kiss. And, we get into our episode 10, which is Nightmares, which
is terrifying.
it is terrifying, and it was also one of those episodes I think also meant to draw attention to child abuse.
Which, was not who I thought was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be the Little League coach. I thought it was going to be his father.
Yeah, so in this episode, this is when Buffy talks more about her parents' relationship because she is going to be spending the weekend with her dad in LA, and she's very apprehensive. And this is where you learn that her parents
I wouldn't say apprehensive. I'd say she was nervous, anxious. Yeah,
Yeah.
She wants to
Because
see her dad.
what it appeared to me was that it sounded like he has canceled on her in the past, and she just wants to be with her dad.
Yeah.
Clearly, the divorce happened when she was much older, so it's
Yeah, because her parents essentially, for a few years, they had been where they were slowly going apart, and then it wasn't until last year, she says, the divorce was finalized. And while her parents would tell her she's not the cause, Buffy states that in her mind, she's not 100% sure, because she says, I was a mess, I was slaying, I was acting out. So she, in her mind, feels a responsibility towards that.
And I think that's a response. That's for every child, regardless of how old you are, when they are divorced.
Yeah.
When they're a product of product. That's not the correct word. When you have divorced parents, they may tell you as much as they want that it wasn't because of you, but it was because of mitigating circumstances.
Yeah.
But you can't always. You sometimes feel like it was your fault.
Yeah.
And I can
I never
attest.
felt like that.
Well, how old were you when your parents?
12.
I was 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I always, not always, but I only grew up with seeing parents still together. So it's like that whole thing. I resonated with that because I had felt that way.
How does that make you feel now?
Oh, I know the reason why my parents divorced. So it's like it's not. I don't feel that way anymore.
Do you think that it aided, it added to your trauma as a child?
Sure.
And how do you think that has affected your development as a young lady?
She's fine. She
I'm
turned out very
fine.
well.
I went to therapy, so I turned out very well. I spoke to a professional. Highly recommend.
You did.
So,
You did. You turned
So
out
I
better.
am highly well adjusted. I'm a highly well adjusted individual.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Lou and Kate are both highly well adjusted. Lou, well, we'll get on that. But so essentially, this episode centers around this young boy named Billy, who is in a coma.
Lucky 19.
Yes. So, because he's in a coma and because he's over the Hellmouth, he's sort of lingering between the world of dreams and the world of reality. And being over a Hellmouth, that just amplifies things. So essentially, nightmares are blurring into reality. And each of the nightmares, to some extent, like, what I like about this episode is there are Easter eggs that are brought up in later seasons, so there is some continuity. So just to discuss the nightmares briefly, so Giles, one of his nightmares is that he's unable to read. So for a man like Giles, who's highly literate, fluent in several languages.
A librarian.
Exactly, yeah, that he's...
I thought it was getting lost in the stacks and not being able to find his way out.
That's one of them. Like, one of his, like, is lost in the stacks, and one is that he can't read.
And failing Buffy.
Exactly, yeah. So for Allison Hannigan's character, Willow, hers is that she has a fear of public entertainment. So the fear that she's on stage and she can't sing or she can't perform is one of her nightmares, and that is brought up in later seasons as well. For Xander, it's his fear of clowns, which is completely understandable.
And showing up to class in nothing but his underwear.
Yes, that clowns are evil. And for Buffy, it's the fear of death, the fear of becoming a vampire, and also the Master makes an appearance. Because, like I said, I mean, I don't think he's physically there. I still think he's...
I think it's a manifestation because he's locked away.
Yeah.
He's sealed away in a crypt.
Yeah, so he can't be out.
No.
But
No.
So this episode deals with fears, both literal and metaphorical. For Cordelia, her fear is being perceived of as a nerd, which doesn't really do much for her character.
I don't think it was her being a nerd. I think it was vanity because her hair got all poofy.
That is true, but what I disliked is because, like I said, I don't know what episode exactly, and probably it's toward the end, where you know that she has more depth. So in many ways, making her fear like about her hair or about like you see her being dragged to the chess club.
But that's vanity. That's
it is vanity, but
that doesn't she's like
it could have had more depth. Like, because the other nightmares, yeah, like I don't know. I think something could have been done a bit better. I mean, yeah, we know she's vain.
I think they're just reaching for stuff. I mean, at some point, like what do you really do with them?
Right.
Yeah. So, but at the core of the episode is learning to sort of face your fears. So Xander overcomes the fear of the clown because he says, you sucked. Your balloon man was terrible, and he basically defeats that.
Punches the clown in the face.
Yeah. Willow doesn't really confront her fear because she escapes, because her fear is like she's like pulled into an opera performance. But she doesn't really face that fear. She sort of like tells Xander what she had to do, and then they go on. Buffy emerges, so one of her fears being buried alive. She emerges from the grave, which is
Dead,
like a
though.
Carrie moment.
But dead though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That episode like didn't really hit that hard for me because I'm like, they're not really, like, I didn't really think any of them except for Xander punching the clown were facing their fears.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
But and then even with Billy, like, they just show up and they wake him up from his coma by like shaking him. But even with the baseball coach, I'm like what message are you sending?
Yeah.
Like what like.
In what way?
Like I'm not sure. The episode was like very messy for me.
Oh, okay.
I don't think their messaging is very clear. Like they had an opportunity to, I think, kind of say something and do something that not a lot of shows at that time were doing.
Right.
And I for me it fell flat. Like
yeah, no, I agree with you because like I told Simona, I first thought that it was going to be his father who was the abuser, but like a Little League coach. I
It could happen.
It could happen.
But like
But
they
is
didn't
it-
really go anywhere
Right.
with it. You know, like
Right.
you didn't like you. I think you needed more for there to be more of an impact.
Right.
Yeah, this episode just fell a little flat for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, like I understand what you're saying. Do you also, because also the episode, so Billy, they go to the hospital where Billy is basically in the coma because they realize that everything is centering around Billy. That Billy inadvertently is causing the world of nightmares to blend into the world of reality.
Right.
So they visit his bedside and Billy appears, like the astral projection of Billy. And they tell him, you have to face the ugly man who is the personification in his dream world of his abuser. And Billy, of course, does not want to. Now, Buffy at this point, as a vampire, she fights the ugly man and she says, to Billy, you have to do the final step. So it's a metaphorical unmasking of the ugly man. And it's a way for Billy says, like, okay, I'm going to confront him because Billy has been avoiding the ugly man. So whenever the ugly man shows up,
He runs away.
Billy runs away.
Yeah.
So at this point, Buffy says, you can't keep on running. You have to sort of face him. And Billy does. He unmasks him. He awakens from the coma. And that's when his Little League coach comes in. And the Little League coach at this point doesn't realize that Billy is awake. And he says, oh, he's my lucky 19.
Also, what was the Little League coach's intention
Right.
there? Like, what's he showing up there for? Because when he shows up and Billy's awake, he's shocked.
Right.
Right? So do you think he
And-
was
and
going
he
there to
was-
finish the job?
Right. And he was coming in every single day. And so, which is why I agree with you
It could be. It could also be to sort of take away suspicion from him, basically showing like, oh, I'm the caring coach, like, oh my, which is what, like, you see it sometimes with like serial killers where like they become actively involved in the investigation process. It's like a form of vanity. I mean, he probably could have been trying to snuff him out. Or it could have been like, I'm going
Get
to
rid of the witness,
take
you know?
attention away from myself by showing, oh my God, I'm so caring. Granted, if Billy ever woke up,
He could just be like,
Billy could have revealed it if Billy had the confidence. Maybe if Billy had woken up, I think what gave Billy the confidence to sort of confront the coach was that he had people with him.
Yeah.
So like, what exactly did the coach do to Billy?
I think he beat him. Like, he beat him into a coma.
There was no like bruises or anything.
Well, I think also that and I'm going to assume this because based on like watching behind the scenes and interviews, being on the network, there were certain things you couldn't show. So, for example, like indications of violence, they had to be careful with what they showed. Budgetary constraints. So there were certain things you just couldn't depict. Maybe had they shown a child all bruised up, maybe it might not have been well received. At the time, this is what I'm guessing. I don't know for a fact.
Well, it's good assumptions too.
That's probably why. Like, maybe had they shown, oh my God, this young boy is all bruised, bloody, and he's in a coma.
Yeah.
Maybe he would have said how that would have been too extreme for a cable network show. That's what I'm assuming.
Probably.
I don't know for a fact.
Yeah.
That's a good, probably.
But in saying Lucky 19, Buffy is the first one to put it together. Mm-hmm. And then Giles, you see, which is Anthony Stewart as a great actor, he sees Buffy's reaction and he gets it.
Yeah.
And
Xander too.
Yeah, like basically it's in Buffy's reaction that the other people are like, oh, something isn't right.
Yeah.
And then Billy basically says, you told me it was my fault. I'm not to blame. There are other players on the team, and one would assume he's then taken to jail. It's not shown, but maybe that's the
I would
assumption.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it, let's be honest. I mean, it probably was Billy's fault. Like if they lost,
He did say that he dropped the catch.
he dropped the ball.
He dropped literally.
So are
there
you
has
saying
to be
that because he dropped him, should have been beaten into a coma?
there have to be consequences for your
Oh
actions.
my God, Lou.
So,
No, we don't condone this.
we don't condone violence. We don't condone violence. So, all right, let's get to the last episode because that episode,
Prophecy Girl.
wait for it, slays.
Yeah, so Prophecy Girl, is the final episode. It's the season finale. It is one of the best episodes of season 1. So in Prophecy Girl, this is where Buffy has to confront the knowledge that in fighting the Master, she will die. So the Master has always been this figure in the background. You have not really seen him too often, but in this episode, Giles, as he does, is researching. He comes across the prophecy, and the prophecy states, the Master shall rise and the Slayer shall, doesn't finish the sentence, but you learn that the Slayer is going to die. Buffy overhears a conversation between Giles and Giles and Angel, where Giles is distraught because he says what is written in the Codex always comes to pass, and he's desperately trying to figure out a way around it, but at the same time, he realizes, I can't find a way around it. Buffy, understandably, is upset. She's devastated, and she says, I'm 16 years old. I don't want to die, and I quit. And Buffy says, you can find someone else. Giles says, there is no one else. And Buffy has that moment where she says, I don't care. And she goes home. She has a conversation with her mom. And she basically is desperate to get away. But the mom says, the mom works at a gallery. I can't do it. This is also the night of, the school dance. And Buffy at this point is like, I'm not concerned about the school dance.
Can I just say...
Yeah.
Xander's reaction to Buffy being like, when Xander confesses about his feelings for Buffy and Buffy lets him down gently, his reaction, I don't like his reaction to her. Because it's like, she does not owe you anything.
But that's the issue with Xander's character.
I know.
That he believes himself entitled.
Oh, I know.
Buffy.
Which is why I don't like Xander.
But he is a Josh Whedon insert. Josh Whedon admitted that Xander is the closest to his character.
Yeah, what does that say
So,
about him?
unfortunately, it's very true. Xander has a huge sense of entitlement, and unfortunately, that entitlement never goes away. It only gets worse.
Oh.
So it's an
Word.
unfortunate aspect of his character. But Joyce, Buffy's mom, has bought her this beautiful dress, which I will say I don't really like the fashion of season 1, but that dress
is
lovely.
nice. It was a very nice dress. And I liked how everybody was like, I like your dress.
Yeah.
Even the Master
Yeah.
was like, love your dress.
Yeah, and this
I liked the Master.
The Master, what I
thought he was funny.
The Master's like that mustache twirling
Yeah.
villain.
I liked him. He's the only vampire that looks like a evil elf.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't remember her saying the fruit punch thing.
Yeah, fruit punch mouth.
And it's funny because when Joe and I were talking about it, I was like, the only thing I don't like is that he looks like he's drinking
nose.
fruit punch.
Yeah.
And I forgot that she totally said that, so that was fun.
Yeah. So Buffy, at a certain point, she accepts her destiny. She goes to Giles and she says,
hold on. She accepts her destiny because Willow and Cordelia walk into a room full of murdered teenagers.
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's not gloss over R.I.P. Let's
Yeah.
not gloss over the murdered teenagers. There's
yeah.
6 of them in there.
They happen throughout the course of the
Just
show.
Yeah.
on school grounds, too. The vampires are getting a little ballsy on us.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are.
And so Buffy's like, Willow's crying because she's like, I knew these people. I was friends with these people. Buffy's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I guess I got to go and kill the Master now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially. You summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, I know.
So she accepts her responsibility. She confronts Giles in the library. Giles and Jenny Calendar are having a discussion.
Can we, I know we talked about Jenny already a little bit. I love Jenny Calendar. I love her.
If you love her so much, why don't you marry her?
I would have.
Oh, Louisa, did you hear that?
I would have. I mean, she's dead. She dies. Spoiler. She dies.
So you would marry the character, not the actress.
Oh, yeah, the character.
Yeah.
I love Jenny Calendar.
You don't like Robia Lamort?
I didn't even know that was her name.
Yeah.
I love Jenny Calendar. I love Jenny Calendar. That's why when she dies, I won't tell you who kills her, but she dies. I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
I remember watching it. I was 8 years old? Being like, she might have been my first love. Jenny Calendar.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
poor Lewis. Poor 8-year-old Lewis.
Yeah. What a shame. What a shame. Anyway, all right. So,
Yeah.
where were we?
Where
I'm
Buffy-
lost on Jenny
where-
Calendar.
Where Buffy basically goes to the library, Giles and Jenny Calendar
yeah.
are prepping.
Yeah, for the
and-
apocalypse. An apocalypse is basically
Yeah,
about to
because
happen.
once the Master rises, it'll open the Hellmouth, which will literally unleash hell on Earth and
Yeah.
the
So
end of time.
Giles is all like, I'm not having my nightmare
Come true.
come true.
Yeah.
I'm going to go fight the Master. Buffy clocks him in the face, says, no, you're not going anywhere, knocks him out, and goes to fight the Master.
Yeah.
And doesn't succeed the first go around.
No.
No, which is some of the problem. So essentially, the Anointed One shows up, and she says, I know who you are, take me to him. She goes to confront the Master, and the Master is playing this cat and mouse game. He's taunting her verbally. And then eventually he overcomes her, and he says, prophecies are tricky beasts. They don't tell you everything. And he says, you're the one who sets me free. So if you hadn't come, I could not have escaped.
Which, now my question for you is, because we're seeing both sides of it, is that obvious to us because we're seeing both sides of it?
Yes.
Or, like, should she have been a little smarter and been like,
Well, I think
you
it's-
know,
I think it's a mixture of both. I feel like, well, because us as an audience have seen both sides of it, and we know that if she goes and she'll set the Master free. But then also, too, I feel like a little more thought process could have gone
Yeah, right?
into
Yeah.
into Buffy's motivations.
be like, I think I would like to think that I would think that, you know, the Master's stuck wherever he is.
yeah,
So what's the one variable in all of this? And I'd be like, oh my God, it's me.
right,
So if I avoid that, we would be in the same situation.
right.
That's the only kind of like loophole I see, but I'm wondering if it's because I'm seeing both sides of it. But I was really trying to put myself in a position where I did not know the other side of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like maybe, and I'm not even putting it on Buffy because she's a 16-year-old teenager. You know what I mean? She's a teenager.
Yeah.
Maybe Giles, the guy that studies this, the guy whose job it is to protect her
Well,
and
I don't-
guide her
I don't
and
think-
watch her.
Well, I don't think that Giles was aware. So, with the prophecy only states that the Slayer will fight the Master and she'll die, but it doesn't state that her death is the key to his lock. Like, had they known that,
Right. Agreed. 100%. But, again, the Master's stuck wherever he is. They know that.
yeah,
Right? They know they know it's coming. He's
Yeah.
coming, but for whatever reason, he's stuck.
yeah,
And he's not there yet.
yeah.
Couldn't they surmise that maybe her presence would have something to do with him ascending?
I don't think so.
You don't think they could? You don't think Giles, like this is what his
This
whole
is his
life?
one job.
Right.
This is his
That's what
one
I'm saying.
job.
That's what I'm saying. He's
And he failed to
Yeah.
read the prophecy correctly.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
I don't-
like they knew the Anointed One was going to guide her to the Master.
Yeah, but
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but
You
that's
see what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
But-
So if they just didn't.
so initially with the Anointed One, they assumed he had died. So the
No. Right. We don't have to get into all that. But I'm just
I was
saying.
gonna bring up my point.
But if they knew that the Anointed One was going to lead Buffy to the Master, and the Master was going to
But
fight
they didn't
Buffy,
know
and she
who
would.
the Anointed One really was.
But they knew it was a child, right?
Yeah, but
But
Okay, but-
didn't she say to the Anointed One that I know who you are, lead me to him?
Katie, you and me have always been like this. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Yes,
welcome.
exactly.
You're welcome.
So if she had just been like, "Hey kid, I know who you are. I'm not following you down
Right.
there," bada bing, bada boom, Master just dies down there because he's gonna get hungry at some point,
Yeah.
and he's losing all his people.
Yeah.
so he would not. First of all, his minions can enter his prison, so no, he would have had a constant supply of blood. He can't exit, but that doesn't mean people can't go in. That's the first point. So no, he would not. He would have had blood supply. 2, they only realize the Anointed One is a child because a monk who goes AWOL, or not AWOL, who goes missing, sends out a Bible quote.
Okay. But they knew.
But they still don't know what child. That's like saying, okay, keep an eye
it's
out.
the creepy child that's leading you down into the caves.
But I'm talking about Giles. I'm not talking about Buffy. Let me finish my thought. That's like saying to Giles, keep an eye out for a child. Now you step out into the wide world, a child. But at that point, Giles
in the dark, on the eve of an apocalypse.
But Giles was not there. Giles gets knocked out. They didn't see the Anointed One.
But Buffy knew it, though.
But Buffy at this point has accepted the fact that she may die. So at this point, it's moot. She knows that only he can take her to them. Without him, she can't find the Master.
She should have just stayed away.
Why does she need to find him?
Because because ultimately, she is the chosen one. The one with the strength to kill the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. Ultimately, she alone can do it.
She's the Slayer.
Exactly. So she has embraced the fact that I will die tonight, but I will die taking him down. She doesn't know I will die tonight, and he escapes because I'm the one that lets him. She didn't know that. But regardless, she knows that Giles can't. What I'm saying is, yes, if you want to really beat this dead horse in terms of logic, there is probably none. I will grant that to you.
I see what you're saying.
But Willow can't fight the Master. Angel can't fight the Master.
I guess my whole thing is really none of them needed to fight the Master, ultimately.
Yeah.
And
darkness
Giles
is insidious, one way or
should
another.
have known.
Yeah. Yes. Also, too, can we talk about how her anticlimactic, not even resurrection, but like saving was very anticlimactic.
Very anticlimactic.
And then the fight against the Master,
the Master of all vampires,
right, was really short and also very anticlimactic.
Because do you know what takes the Master down ultimately?
Love.
His hubris.
Oh. All right. Another thing
I don't know.
about what was I just gonna say? What did you just say before?
That his fight, like her
that's
resurrection,
what it was. Thank
was
you.
very anticlimactic and very silly.
Master, right?
Yeah.
You've been waiting for He's been waiting for this for how long, right?
But
I'm gonna get on the
millennial.
Masters now. On the
Yeah.
Master now.
Yeah.
He's been waiting for this for how long?
About 80 years.
80 years. It's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yes.
Finish the job, brother.
Yeah.
Suck out all the blood. He literally, like, it was like...
It was a sip.
Yeah.
It was a sip.
It was like the people at a wedding that walk around with the hors d'oeuvres and you just take one. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's what it was.
Yes.
He, like, took a piece.
Yes.
I'm like, take more than that.
Drain
You know
her
what I mean?
dry. I want
Yeah.
to see her a husk. If this was supposed to be... Yeah.
You wanna be free. You make sure that the Slayer,
Won't
the one
get up
person,
again.
the chosen one, the one person that fights the forces of darkness and demons and all that.
Doesn't get up.
Exactly.
So
what the hell?
So in the Master's defense, when so he gets a sip of the Slayer juice, which is intoxicating.
So you would think he would keep going.
Yeah.
But he also has a mission. So he takes a sip of the Slayer juice, and he realizes she's still alive, and he throws her into a puddle. So she essentially drowns. Or she's medically dead, because I don't think she really died. And then he ascends. And then once she dies, the Hellmouth, which you find out is located in the library, opens up, and panic ensues.
How convenient is that, too, by the way?
That disgusting creature that comes out from that.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
That was
thing?
disgusting. I was like, oh, I don't
know.
need to see that.
But it did remind me of another monster that I saw in a film, but now I can't recall what it was. But as I was watching, I was like, oh, that looks so familiar. Xander and Angel show up. Xander performs rather dubious CPR on Buffy. That's not the best.
Very dubious.
It was almost like a reason for him to touch her chest. It was really stupid.
Yeah.
She revives, and something is different about her because she says, I feel more powerful. I feel more alive. And she, with gusto and still wearing her beautiful white dress, walks over to the high school. She fights the Master, and I will agree. 12 episodes of build-up, and the Master succumbs pretty easily. I will give that
Goes
to you.
right through a skylight window onto a broken piece of table. He could fly, can he?
No, they can't fly.
He's the Master. He doesn't have that ability?
No,
I
vampires.
like that Jedi thing he kept doing.
With the hip
Darth
that-
Vader.
No, in the lore of the Buffyverse, vampires don't fly.
Well, that's lame.
Pretty sure in the season 4 episode of Dracula, he flies in that one.
He's not flying.
I think he flies in that episode. I think he lands.
It was a lame fight. It was a lame fight with a very anticlimactic ending.
It was.
So
Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I like the Master, but that was whack.
Yeah.
he dies. He becomes a husk. So there's the dried out husk part that you want.
No, he's a skeleton. He's not a husk. He's a skeleton.
All right, Miss Technical.
I am going to be technical.
So he becomes a skeleton. All the gang is there. The Hellmouth closes, and they decide to go to the party. And the episode ends with all the gang leaving the library. Angel telling her, "I like your dress," and Buffy goes, "Yeah, big hit with everyone." And then it focuses ominously on the bones of the Master.
Is it ominously? I don't think it's ominously. I think
There's ominous music playing, so you know
But what happened to the Anointed One?
yes, that's what I want to know.
he vanishes.
And that's it.
No,
No, he comes back?
I'm not. Well, fine. If we're doing spoilers all around, yes, he comes back in the second season.
He does. I don't remember him coming back.
Well, you're gonna see him in season 2. We're watching the first episode, so you will see him.
So then that's not really a spoiler if we're going to see it.
But you guys didn't watch it yet, so me saying it. Okay, fine, whatever. He makes his appearance.
I think it's more of a spoiler. Like, if we're going to watch it, like I was spoiling stuff we weren't going to watch. You just spoiled something we are going to watch.
Well, we don't know how he reappears, so that'll be the surprise.
Yeah, true. Don't tell us. Spoiler over there. By the way, Simona spoils everything for herself, and she's getting mad at us for spoiling stuff. And she literally spoils everything. Like, she'll look up the endings to things to decide whether or not she's going to watch them, instead of just watching them like a normal human being.
And
So.
none of the plot twists matter then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like depriving yourself of joy.
Yeah. So anyway, so whatever.
So, final thoughts on season 1. Season 1, it's not the best season.
No.
I will say that the finale of season 1 slays. Great episode. And it leads into what is easily the best season of the show, and that's season 2. We're going to talk about a couple episodes in season 2. Probably the best finale of any season of the show is in season 2. You meet Spike. You meet the wonderfully insane Drusilla. There's another Slayer because, spoiler, Buffy dies in season 1. So
You mean season 2?
no, in season 1.
one,
Because she died, a new Slayer will appear.
So with Slayer lore,
that's right.
there can only be one in the world. When the Slayer dies, that activates the next Slayer. You don't know who she is. She could be in
Activation.
any country or whatever.
Now
So
we won't see Kendra at all with what we're watching. Kendra
we will.
She's not in the finale.
Yes, she is.
Is it the finale where Drusilla?
Yeah, that's the first part of the 2-parter.
Is it? Oh yeah. Yeah, we're in for some good stuff, guys. We're in for some good stuff. I didn't think we were going to see Drusilla much at all, so that's
We're not.
good.
We're not.
But we're going to see her do that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's like one of my favorite scenes ever. I love that scene.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are in for a treat.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in for a treat because we're going to watch it. You guys are in for a treat because you're going to watch me.
Oh, this will be my first time watching it, so
Oh, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Honestly, season 2 slays. You should just watch the whole season.
no pun intended.
No, full puns.
Yeah, I would agree. There are good moments in season 1, but season 1, like most shows, they're finding their footing. A lot changes. Even some of the special effects, like the way vampires dust, changes.
Yeah,
In
for the
season
better.
2.
For
The
the better.
makeup changes.
For the better.
And season 2 definitely is the start of good things with the show. I don't think anyone would argue that. So yeah, there's a lot of great characters who were introduced, a lot of characters that I wish could have remained a little longer, but
Like Drusilla.
yeah, like reading this book, which you can get in our system. The author of the book is a fan of Buffy. He has some interviews with cast members and writers, and there's a lot of inside scoops around the show. So, and especially the second Slayer whom we meet, he interviews the actress Bianca Lawson, who does a fantastic job with what she was given. Yeah, it's really good. So like I said, you can get this book in our system. We also have some YA fiction based on the Buffyverse. We have some of the graphic novels. And I would really like to know if you are someone who's a fan of Buffy, who watched it maybe while it was airing. I'd love to get your thoughts on these episodes. So what are we doing a rating system for these 3 episodes?
I think we should hold off on ratings
You see,
until
again, we're just like this.
until we see the entirety of it.
All of it. And then we
And
rate
then-
Buffy as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Take us out.
Okay, so we hoped you enjoyed our discussion of these 3 episodes of season 1. As I mentioned earlier, we will be discussing all 7 seasons, and then at the end, as my colleagues rightfully said, we will be giving our thoughts. Well, it won't be much for me because I love the show regardless, so my rating will still be the same. Nothing will change. Yeah, so so Buffy is available through our system, so you can place a hold on it. It is also available on Hulu. So yeah, so join us next time when we discuss season 2, and like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye everyone.